Distant Worlds universe. Today, I wish to give you a beginner's guide on just getting into the game in general, all the basics that I think you need to know from point A to point B. And so with that, let's hit start new game. I have the Ancient Galaxy theme selected right now. If you don't, you will not see this screen. This is like a pre-built campaign sort of thing. If I go to set up custom game, then you'll see what you will see if you don't have that selected, which is this right here. Select this if you want to get to what I just had up. But you can have an introductory game which decides to make things easy for you so you can learn, but the game doesn't do a lot of teaching, right? So that's why I'm here. So at the start here, you have some scenarios you can pick from. The Ancient Galaxy takes place kind of before everything in the classic era. The actual game is the classic era. So if you just want to quickly hop into a game, but not something too easy like the introductory game, you just want to see the default, then just select the classic era. The Ancient Galaxy takes place way before all that, referencing this ancient world that gets referenced a lot in the base game. You get to play as the humans and just kind of see what that was all like in a pre-built galaxy. Whereas the rest of this is up to a lot of RNG, a lot of variables here. Moving on, we have the Return of the Shock Turret. This is an expansion that adds a end game threat to conquer that will make you a lot stronger for it, but threatens to tear you down right when you're seeing success. If you wish to have that expansion enabled, in addition to the classic era, then just go ahead and select this. Legends adds additional events to flesh out the galaxy. It includes everything in Return of the Shock Turret and classic era. Select this if you wish to have all three of these. Then before that, we have the Age of the Shadows. This is based on the pirate factions you will encounter so often in the game, which I will describe more as we go into the game. But if you wish to play as a pirate faction, then a pirate faction in the Age of Shadows is the easiest way to do it, because it kind of flips the core gameplay loop on its head. It's no longer empires growing strong and dominating the pirates. It's more the pirates are exceptionally strong and the nations are suppressed and kind of subject to their whims. You could even take on the challenge of playing an empire in the Age of Shadows as well. Then, separate to all of that, we have custom games, the Standard Empire and Pirate Faction. It will essentially be whatever you set it up to be. It could be Legends, Shock Turret, Classic, even Age of Shadows type stuff, but we're gonna just select Standard Empire here. This is what you should probably be playing as a brand new player, where you will get to decide how many stars, how many systems are located in the game. Some of them could have no planets around them. Others could have like a dozen. And how many sectors do you want? You can kind of see it here, little grids. This little square here is one sector. Here's another sector. So 15 by 15 sectors. That's 15 by 15. Or 10 by 10, 8 by 8, 6 by 6, 4 by 4. You can have as big as this allows you, or as small as 4 by 4 with merely 100 stars. In a spiral, an elliptical as we see, ring, irregular, even and varied clusters as well. If you do go really large, you don't really have to worry about performance problems these days, but the game can become a lot to manage, a lot to deal with, even with all the automation the game offers, just because the AI is not so good at certain things, so there's some things you will simply be forced to do, whereas the smaller sizes might be a little underwhelming, in fact. You could determine how far along the tech tree that the entire galaxy, and everyone that is not you, by the way, is with these settings, from pre-warp, not ever leaving their home system, to maybe owning a couple, to being ancient, all the way up to that, all the way up to being ancient and very advanced. You can determine how aggressive or peaceful it is, depends if you want to take place in more of the exploration, if you want more war. There's different difficulties. The introductory game would pretty much put you on easy, but you can also have the difficulty scale upwards from whatever you have it on. You can put it on easy and then have it scale upwards to higher if you, the player, are getting close to victory. As you pass 50%, specifically, the closer you get to 100%, it will start raising the difficulty, which will make things a lot harder for you when dealing with your income. your corruption, your research speed, your mining rate, population growth, war weariness, and how effective your ships are in battle. You can then customize a lot of settings, including how much does research cost? How many space creatures are there? Hostile things that are not nations that you're going to have to deal with. How many pirates there are. How nearby they will be to you. Their strength, and if they get fully destroyed, do they respawn? So if you don't like pirates, and they can be annoying, you could turn them off completely. And you don't really have to select this if you're turning them off completely, but you can just customize them to be as much as you want. And this can also allow you to kind of recreate the Age of Shadows, right? By maybe putting everything on starting, making things a little more chaotic, putting the pirates on very many and strong, letting them respawn and be nearby, that kind of thing. You can make things really, really bad for yourself, essentially. Moving on, we have the colonization and territory. This just determines how colonies interact. So basically at the start here, we have, well, how many colonies can there be? How many colonizable things will we spawn in? A normal amount, which is the balanced amount, less, more. How much independent alien life will there be? That is planets that have alien populations on them, even your own race's population that you select, that are not part of a spacefaring nation, that can develop into one, technically speaking. Do you want there to be a lot? Barely any? It's up to you. These can be good planets to colonize, but they could also buff up your enemies just as much as they could buff up you, and they could become enemies or even allies in the future. How far a influence aura around a colony extends, influencing kind of what it controls, is literally a sphere of influence. It can be increased or decreased. It will show the suggested range based on the size of galaxy you select. And then the colonization range. This is how many sectors away can you colonize to stop someone from one corner of the map from settling something on the other corner of the map via normal colonization. Now, through taking things over via war and then colonizing from there, for example, or even trading locations, then you can actually kind of bypass this. But especially in the expansion stages of the game, this can help you determine how far someone can actually expand. Then you can pick your race, and there are a lot of races, and the information is all laid out there for you to see. I'm not going to go over all of them because we would be here forever, but generally speaking, you have your humanoids, which are usually pretty intelligent and friendly and diplomatic. The Securans are the perfect example. These are your, like, Cyrene from Urquan Masters, you know, Star Control. These are your spacefaring hooker race, kind of. You have these apes, which are a more aggressive version of the humans, but still intelligent. You have, of course, the insectoids, which are your world-ending race and are quite dangerous if you leave the expansions enabled in the game, as well as other options, including some classic information keepers. Then we get to the point of customizing your own empire, where you could choose what part of the starting location, based on what type of galaxy you picked, do you want to spawn in. Because of this rim sort of thing we have, we could spawn in the core, the rim, or the void in between, as an example. We could set up a flag, the colors of it, we could name ourselves. We could determine how good or bad our home system is for us. We could determine our starting tech level. This is separate to the one we saw earlier, which affects everybody else. Well, our starting size, at least, and then our tech level underneath that. Whereas for the others, it's kind of one setting. Here, it's multiple. And we can also determine how corruption affects us, specifically us, if you don't like dealing with corruption, if you like dealing with corruption, or you just want the balance thing. And you can determine what government you start as. The options will be different depending on what species you start as, and you can even find other government types in the game. Then you could auto-generate starting empires if you want a certain amount, a higher amount, of course, based on how much you have, or otherwise you can allow independent alien colonies to start new empires during the game. That is, if there are slots available for that, and you can add them manually, selecting all of their attributes at will. From there, you can set your victory conditions, and this is where you determine what's in there. The Shadows story events is that Age of Shadows thing. We have race-specific events. These were kind of added in later. The original story events, the Return of the Shakturi, you want to turn this off if you don't want to be kind of rushed into a potentially game-ending storyline You can have disasters that strike planets, lowering the quality of life there. Tech trading really affects how games go, so turn this on or off will affect the game a lot. AI will trade technology with each other and try to with you as well. You can allow giant Kaltors, these big space aliens, which at the beginning of the game could be quite terrifying. Later on, kind of just something that you slaughter. You could determine the victory thresholds and the percentages of these different victory conditions, and even a time limit for when the game finishes no matter what. And then you're free to start the game. When you're in the game, it'll look something like this or less because you might not see as much. This is the ancient galaxy start. We have a lot of things. We have our colonies here. Yours will look much more manageable than this if you're just starting a normal game, where you can adjust your tax rates as well as name things and get informations on all your different colonies, see stars next to your capital. These will be your regional capitals when they have these little silver stars next to them. You have happiness values as you raise taxes and have less resources, especially luxury ones, less development bonus. Your happiness will go down as you lower taxes and get more conveniences for your population. Happiness will go up. Taxes don't actually tax population. Instead, the GDP of a planet is what gets taxed. So this has 300,000 GDP. If I tax 50% of it, then I am taxing 150,000, as you see right there. There's tax compliance with corruption. This is kind of based on the presence of a capital in the region or further away. We can see right here, for example, there's a 32% tax rate, which is equaling a 7K tax because there's only 93% compliance. There's 5% corruption, so 5% of this GDP of 27K is actually just disappearing. Being close to capitals, be they regional or your main one, will help lower this, and you can get more that you can build in the research. And there are 3 different research trees where you have different things that can research at once, 1 per category. You can have weapons researching, things related to the energy systems of your ships, as well as the construction of things, as well as high-tech things. This is where you can get your regional capitals, for example, the troop and passenger compartments of ships, sensors, countermeasures, targeting. You can even see all the research stations you have, as well as any bonuses that you have to your research, what is affecting your total capacity for research for any single one of these things. Now, everything I'm going over, by the way, I have probably made a guide for already that you can find in the playlist in the description below if you want me to go more in depth. I will have. For example, I'm going to touch now upon automation. Automation is something that I have a whole guide dedicated to, but in your Empire policy screen here, you can actually customize a lot. You can automate your entire nation if you want, down to diplomacy, going to war, troops being built, designed, assigned to fleets. All of this is here. You could play this game as a single captain of a single ship if you want to play it that way, instead of as a 4X, grand strategy sort of game. You can customize this to your pleasing and even save your presets to load at a later time if you want to make any presets for it. This will allow you to kind of play the game how you want to and not get overwhelmed by just how much there is to do, especially if you decide to go 15 by 15 instead of playing a smaller game. Moving right along, we do have things like the expansion planner. Here we get a peek at resources. Resources are important. I mentioned them. Luxury resources are relative sometimes, strategic and otherwise. Your race will have preferences for certain resources that other races will not care about. You should make it a goal to acquire these resources that are important to your race, but also generally for the construction of things and operation of your empire in general. A lot of these are important, and you'll come to learn what these are as you play through, but the information on your race while you're selecting them, it will give you this information. You can then expand pretty simply. If you have colony ships, you could send them by selecting them, or just build and send from here. The expansion planner can show you everything within your range that you can go to. Here's an example of a independent alien race living on a planet that is not part of a nation. I can actually select this and go to it to see more. we can see there's 412 million Tikans living on this planet. If I were to colonize this, and they are friendly, meaning they would be likely to accept my rule if I sent a small colonizing force of like 30 million, then they would just join me, and I would get this 412 million population instead of simply moving 30 million of my own population to another planet. Speaking of moving population to another planet, while building up these colonies, the movement of goods that I have mentioned, these luxury goods and otherwise, but also population, is automated. Let's take a look at the Empire summary screen. There's your nation. This is the 4X part of the game right here, this sector that we're looking at. You could see here your revenue, your maintenances, what you're paying, pirate protection, tribute from subjects, fuel costs, even income from other things such as trade, spaceports that you have, and resorts, in fact, which are kind of touristy destinations. You can see all of your ships and bases that you are working with, what they cost, what you have built. Even on this screen, you could get more information on the side, including bonuses, as well as how many troops you have. You can even change your government here, although it does come with some debuffs. This game does also have a lot of access to kind of Wikipedia type things that you could pull up in-game that do teach you a good amount of stuff. But on the right side, we have the private economy. In the background of your nation, there is a private economy. As you can see, this one's already quite developed. It has 121 small freighters, 95 medium, 89 large, 40 passenger ships, mining stations. These are things that get built by construction ships or spaceports in general. When you do not have ships on order, when you do not have stations on order, the private economy, with its cash flow, with its money, which is separate to yours, however, it's essentially your taxes are coming from them, they will spend it on creating the logistics of your empire. Freighters will move things around from stations and planets. They will engage in trading. Passenger ships will engage in tourism to resort bases. They will move your population to other colonies that you have based on happiness. High happiness locations will draw in more passengers. Low happiness locations will push them. So, for example, you could actually, while not control these passenger ships directly, let's say I wanted my main location to get less population, because it can max out, in fact. I would simply raise my taxes until the happiness is not a smiley face. But let's not get it under 1. Let's not have it go under 0. That would be really bad. And then I would simply lower taxes in places that are not so happy. And that would encourage growth at those locations due to lower taxes, but also encourage migration as well, indirectly. And in the automation, you can actually set up automated tax rates to kind of have this sort of dynamic as well, if you so choose. But you also have kind of a macro builder here for ships, if you wish. You see the highlighted yellow, these are suggestions being input here of what I should build. But I can build things myself as well. They're still yellow because it's what I'm building. These were just here when I opened this up, just so you see. These are the suggestions because I have it enabled in the automation to suggest things to build for me. You see the advisor suggestion here. I could turn that off if I want and just input whatever I wish into here. Of these different ship types, here's what we have. Escorts are things that are designed to escort your freighters, your passenger ships around. Keep them safe from small threats like alien life, space alien life, or lone enemy pirates. They're not designed to fight your wars for you. Frigates is where we start getting to the designed to fight your wars for you. Best operated in small strike groups or as the bulk of bigger fleets. These things are small, they're fast, they're nimble, but they're not very tanky. They're good at dealing with bigger alien life forms that maybe need a little bit of teamwork in order to deal with, or with dealing with a slightly larger pirate incursion, but they're not really that great. As for these screening ships, the best one is the Destroyer, which is just really a better frigate. These can slightly operate independently on those roles that I have mentioned before, but can also work kind of as a flagship to your frigates, or in just strike groups of just destroyers for quick strikes on enemy stations, like mining stations, things of low value. These things could just show up and absolutely slaughter. They're very good, a much higher quality backbone of a bigger fleet, for sure. Very good in terms of these screening ships. Then we start to move up to the bigger ships. The cruiser, out of all the ships, is the best at working alone because it could handle a pretty large number of frigates all by itself. It could handle destroyers by itself. It could go one-to-one with other cruisers, which would then be the most common enemy things that they would fight. Capital ships and carriers are quite rare and expensive in comparison. They have a jump range where they can definitely accomplish things without being in a fleet. They are the most versatile type of ship that you will have in your arsenal, and way more affordable than capital ships and carriers, which you generally want to be escorted by a mixture of cruisers, destroyers, frigates, in order to keep them safe and have them be most effective. Because very powerful as capital ships and carriers might be, they are specialized. Capital ships in big guns and maybe taking hits, but certainly they need support because they cost a lot. And I mean a lot. For example, one capital ship here is 10K. One destroyer is half that. One cruiser is almost that much, but they are good at very different things, with cruisers having a more versatile subset of skills. You see frigates here are less than even destroyers, and escorts are just dirt cheap in comparison to absolutely all of these. Carriers are quite expensive as well, kind of equivalent right now, but the actual design of technology will determine this, to a cruiser, but they're more of a supportive type of capital ship, bringing fighters and other things to bear. A good variety of attack options would make a well-rounded fleet. Moving down, we have resupply ships. This is something you always want to micromanage. It's essentially a space station on wheels. It's a space station that you can move around. It can serve to refuel, rearm, resupply, let for repairs, ships that are operating out on the front. The AI does not know how to use these. Do not build these for the AI if you are automating. If you're working off of suggestions, use these yourself, because they can be very useful in war, especially a far-flung war. Think power projection. But again, these things are very expensive. Look at this, 15K a pop. That's expensive. And look at the maintenance costs. I didn't even mention the maintenance costs, but look at these. Look at how much these maintenance costs are. Insane. So make sure you are using these quite well. Exploration ships early on will be how you learn of others, be they pirates, other races, be they colonizable planets, and later on in the game, they'll serve more of a military function, being recon for your fleet so that you know what there is to attack, you know where the enemy is in terms of their fleets and other things like that. And then construction ships, this is what is building new stations for you. It's building mining stations for you. It's building all kinds of things that are not attached to planets for you and your private industry. You can have them build things, but your private industry will order their services whenever you are not using them. Now, I mentioned attacking things, for example. You have a lot of good UI over here that you should always pay attention to. They're good for different things. You could just see your colonies here at a glance. If you want to go to them, see where they are, get information on them. You could see your characters at a glance. And yes, there are characters, different ones that do different things. And this can be automated, such as spies that can undertake different mission types, which the game will teach you all about what the different mission types are if you so choose. You have your leader, you have governors that can give buffs to your nation, to certain colonies. So the locations matter, but even the locations of these can be automated as well. Ambassadors that exist to give you bonuses with different nations. So find out the home planet and flag of a nation and then send an ambassador there. Scientists can buff up research of certain types, and every one of these characters has certain traits that make them better or worse at certain things. Moving right along, you could see your spaceports next, as well as anything in their building queue. For example, here, as we go ahead and see, we have a huge building queue. So this was where you'll see your ships you're building, as well as things that were ordered by your private economy. Moving down, we can see our construction ships. I told you what those are. You can see what they're doing at a glance, where they are, see if any need anything. But you can also see all ships and bases up here, and you can even sort between the different types, as well as, retrofit them, repair them, give orders, select, go to them, wherever they are on the map, just like you can do so with your fleets, just one tab over, and even your troops, your land troops, which, in case you don't know what those are, we can zoom right in, see a planet. Like I told you, all the interactions are here, including the ability to recruit troops. There's different kinds of troops. You have infantry, armor, you have special forces, and planetary defenses that all do different things. And there's this little ground map of every planet where ground battles will take place. Whether you are having troop transports come to these locations, you could like right click, control right click on a place to drop off units or even to give orders to pick things up, whether enemies are doing it to you. Even pirate outposts can be built on planets and your units already here can go ahead and engage them. This is where it happens. In addition, I'll also mention that the pirates in the game, they don't just exist to hurt you. You can also get, in diplomacy here, treaties with them. For example, I could talk to these raiders, request a protection arrangement. I could pay them the amount that they want. We already have some. You could see this color here, pirate protection. We got a nice little index here with the Tikan smugglers and the Akdarian pirates here. Those guys, if I go ahead and put up a contract for a defense mission on one of my things, or an attack mission on something belonging to an enemy, or a smuggling mission, usually on one of my things, they will then bid over the contract to provide defense from other pirates or from enemies, to attack and destroy a target, or to smuggle resources onto a location at a higher cost, usually good in case, for whatever reason, you have a blockade going on, or there's some sort of situation that just means one of your colonies has poor access to goods. Pirates can help make up the difference, whereas your private industry is not. Yet you can also make transports, if you wish, that can fulfill that role manually if you control them manually. If you're working with the automation of the game, then pirates are really the best way to do this. Additionally here, as you can see, there's other things like building planetary facilities, building world wonders or galaxy wonders in this case, as well as here's what building new ships and stuff looks like from this menu. And again, everything has a menu. Your ships have these menus for just management in general. Your colonies have these menus. The stations above them have these menus. This is where all the standard interaction happens. Moving down on the left, we could see our exploration ships to get an idea of what they're doing. Same thing, kind of keep track of them, usually, probably for military purposes, I'd imagine. We could see enemy targets if we're at war. We could select one of our fleets from below that, for example, then go back here. If there is an enemy target, we can left click it and then the fleet will go attack. That's one way to do it. I can also manually put together fleets, select them, select a target, such as this planet, and then right click attack. Whether I'm at war or not, I can attack things. Of course, that would cause a war. I can also control right click at any time on anything, so long as I have something selected to get more options, where we see other options like prepare and attack. So kind of gear up and then attack. Don't just go immediately. Patrol to keep a location safe. Blockade to try to stop goods from getting to and fro. You could do this one and not be at war at all. And this is where smuggling missions can come in. And then general ones that are not location specific, such as retrofitting to latest designs, because you have designs and as you upgrade them over time, you don't have to rebuild the ships, they can just upgrade. You can refuel all the ships, disband fleets, you can return to their starting bases, you can queue for their next missions after whatever they're doing right now, so you can have kind of like a series of steps for them to undertake. Then we can just see all the military ships on the left here, but again, I showed you, you could see them at the top right as well. You can also open construction yards, for example, to see all of your spaceports and everywhere that you have that can build anything. If you wish to build things at specific locations and you want to find them here, this is just like this ship view. You can kind of see the same thing there. Moving down, we can see potential colonies, just like I showed in the expansion planner, but we can go ahead and actually just, for example, zoom out and see where all these things are in the world. If we so choose, get information at a glance. Under that, we have the pirate missions that we have put up and see their status, how they are going. Under that, we have potential mining locations. This is where a lot of civilian things can go. You can order the construction of these mining stations if you want, if you don't have colonies in these locations. If you can't have colonies in these locations, you could just mine resources from them. Instead, the goods to be used by your population or to be traded as well, which will happen naturally, but can be made better, as you see, with things like free trade agreements, which provide buffs to the income and the value of these trades. As you see, we can go ahead, change relationships and propose certain treaties like free trade agreement, mutual defense pact, etc. These kinds of things they're gonna be basically guaranteed when you reach certain points of relationship, and then basically impossible before then unless they are offered to you. While mentioning this, you can also put trade sanctions so that no trade happens between your nations. You can just declare war directly if you don't want to do like a surprise attack. You can give someone the ability to refuel on your territory or even mine the resources on your territory. In some cases, you don't want to do this, but other nations will gladly give this to you as a sign of friendship. You can send gifts, send warnings, and this can actually change behavior. The AI listens to these warnings. Stop doing espionage missions against me. Okay. And they might. Or they'll say, fuck you. You know? Stop your military attacks against us if they've been raiding you, for example. Remove your military forces from our territory if they've been flying through your space without permission. And they will listen to this, and they will send the same thing to you. You could swap your territory maps based on exploration, or you could get more specific and negotiate trade proposals. And in these trade proposals, you'll have tech trading if you have tech differences, the galaxy maps, for example here, threatening sanctions or war unless they agree to certain things. If you're at war, then this is where you'll make peace. This is where you can ask them to become your subjugated dominion, or you ask to become theirs. If you have special resources, you must enable their trading per nation, right down here, as you can see. If you have things that you refuse to trade, others will hate you for it. If you trade with them, then they will be happy with you as a result of it. Then moving down, we also have potential research locations. These are not things that your private industry will really order by themselves, so it's good to look at this, as if you build things here, if you build these research stations, they are expensive, mind you, but they can give bonuses to your research, as I showed before. I have a whole guide on research, just so you know. And then we have potential resort locations. I mentioned tourism. Resorts can be great for tourism. The better the scenery bonus, the more it will attract tourists, and the more money you will end up making, which again can be seen in your empire screen from this year's bonus income, which is a total amount of income earned in lump sums from these activities over the course of a year in game. At the end of a year, it will reset. It will be reflected at the top right in bonus income as well. So you could run a negative cash flow, which you probably will if you're militarizing, yet still get by because of bonus income, which, separate to cash flow, is not monthly. It is one time. When you see it, that means you've already gotten it, not that you are getting it. And then special locations, which are usually to do with story-related events. Then we can compare our nations with others up here and see how we're doing compared to victory conditions. This is very important to get an idea of when you are getting towards the threshold for victory. For example, the victory threshold is 80%. So if we get 80% of all of these as they are weighted, as you see here, then, and you know, this goes for anybody else as well, then we will win. It's just that simple. However, if we get 50% towards, then the difficulty will scale if we have that one setting enabled in the beginning of the game that I showed you. We can also get other information, little achievements that we've accomplished, and a comparison of population, total territory, economy, strategic value, military strength, the top colonies that are out there. We can get a lot of good information. To go a little more in depth on that diplomacy, by the way, a free trade agreement literally just exists to give bonuses to trade. Pirate protection will enable those contracts, but also stop pirates from attacking you. You literally pay them for a peace agreement, basically. A mutual defense pact just means that you both have to defend each other if one gets attacked. A protectorate is like a one-way version of that. Mutual defense and protectorate buff your trade even more than free trade. And this is what makes them valuable enough to get instead of just free trade agreements, even though it might risk you going to war against someone, is that you will actually profit from it. You could see no relationship. I explained what dominions are, sanctions, war, etc. Just wanted to explain that a little bit as well. But again, I got tutorials on all this stuff. Without risking dragging this out too long, I do believe I've given you a pretty good introduction to the game and what you can expect going in and getting started. Again, check my playlist in the description below if you want to see any more detailed guides on different topics. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to leave those in the comments below. If I can't answer them, hopefully somebody else will be able to. If you have any suggestions for any other guides you want to see, feel free to leave those in the comments below as well. And if I can think of one, then I will gladly get to it. For now, though, I hope that this was helpful to you. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.